Good evening. The October 20th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of the City of Longview is now called to order. Tonight's meeting is being conducted via teleconference to abide by county, state, and federal recommendations to limit in-person gatherings to help slow the spread of the coronavirus. We thank you for your understanding. We'll have a roll call. Due to the format of this meeting, we will begin with a roll call to confirm all members of the commission are present and able to participate in our considerations. Commissioners, when I call your name, will you please respond in the affirmative if you are present? Nancy Murray.
Here.
Tracy Vincent.
Here.
Tim Carpenter.
Here.
Brent Stevenson.
Here.
Pat Noon.
Here.
Cody
Here.
Sage. That was Cody Sage that said here.
No, Cody Sage does not appear to be on at this time.
It's not on.
That is correct. He does not appear to be on at this time.
Thank you. Ryan Baumgartner.
Here.
Jason Jones. Jason Jones, are you present? Frankie Parson, that's myself. I am here. Also, we'll do a roll call of city staff. Angela Planner. Here. Director of Development Services, Michael Shirley.
Present.
And Assistant Director of Development Services, Ingrid Self. Here. Approval of the September 15th minutes. Item 3, last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look at them? And if so, are there corrections? Hearing none, I will now entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, this is Pat Noon. I move that we accept the minutes as written.
This is Nancy. I will approve as a second on that.
Thank you. There's a first and a second. We will now conduct a roll call vote. Commissioners, when I call your name, please answer. Nancy Murray.
I approve.
Tracy Vincent.
I approve.
Tim Carpenter. Tim Carpenter, do you approve the minutes?
Approved.
Thank you. Brent Stevenson.
Approved.
Thank you. Pat Noon.
Approved.
Cody Sage is still absent. Ryan Baumgartner.
Approved.
Jason Jones. Still no response. And I am Frankie, and I approve. Staff, will you please confirm the record of the vote?
Yes, ma'am. Pat Noon made the motion to approve the minutes. Nancy Murray seconded the motion. The vote was 7-0 unanimous to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Our agenda item now is citizen comment. Those wishing to participate in citizen comment tonight were invited to access this meeting through a link to register with the teleconferencing application. This portion of citizen comment are comments made other than the public hearing items that we have on the agenda tonight. If you wish to speak on an item that is on the agenda, please wait until that time to speak. Richard Yakely is coordinating the technical side of the meeting and will assist with moderating the citizen comment portion of our meeting. When you are called to speak, you will be unmuted and given one opportunity to speak. Please begin by stating your name and address for the public record. If you're also watching a live stream of this meeting through CityView Municipal Television, please mute it to avoid feedback. Richard, do we have any residents who want to speak tonight?
Thank you, Frankie. There are people registered for the meeting. Many of them are associated with items that the commission will be considering later. I'll wait a second to see if anyone raises their hand in the teleconferencing software, indicating that they just want to speak in citizen comment and not for a particular item. Again, if you want to speak now, just in general, this would be the opportunity. Please raise your hand. And Madam Chairwoman, I am not seeing any at this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. We will move to the consent agenda. The items on the consent agenda are plats that meet the requirements of the City of Longview subdivision ordinance. These items will be approved with one vote unless any member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, any member of the public, or the applicant would like an item removed from consent and placed on the regular agenda for discussion. Would anyone like for an item to be removed from the consent agenda tonight and placed on the regular agenda for discussion? Hearing none, I will now entertain a motion. When making a motion, please state your name for the staff.
This is Nancy Murray. I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Nancy. Is there a second?
This is Pat Noon, and I will make the second.
Thank you, Pat. We have a first and a second. We will now conduct a roll call vote. Nancy Murray,
I approve.
Tracy Vincent,
I approve.
thank you. Tim Carpenter,
I approve.
Brent Stevenson,
Approve.
Pat Noon,
Approve.
Cody Sage is absent, Brian Bungar,
Approve.
Jason Jones is absent, and myself, I approve. Staff, will you now confirm the record of the vote?
Yes, ma'am. Nancy Murray made the motion to approve the consent agenda. Pat Noon seconded the motion. The vote was 7-0 unanimous to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Now on to the regular. The purpose of this meeting is to hear all pertinent testimony of those in support of and in opposition to the application before the commission. Tonight is the first of two public hearings required to approve a change in zoning. The commission also considers plats. The procedure for public hearing items to be followed tonight will be the public hearing will be opened and testimony will be heard in the following order. First from staff, then second from the applicant, and then third from the general public, and that would be those in support and those in opposition to the request. If you are part of a large group with a common interest, we ask that you appoint a spokesperson rather than have each individual restate the same information. When addressing the commission, please begin by stating your name and address and try to limit your comments to 5 minutes. When all sides have spoken, the public hearing on the matter will be closed and no further public discussion will be entertained. After each public hearing is closed, the commission will vote on the request. Zoning request and the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation will go forward to the second public hearing, which will be conducted by the City Council on November the 12th. Regular agenda item A. Angela, will you introduce it?
Yes, ma'am. A public hearing will be held to consider application M20-01, an ordinance adopting the Unified Development Code.
And Michael will give the presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Chairwoman. What we have before you is the culmination of 3 years worth of work, the Unified Development Code. This document that we have, the purpose is to strengthen and streamline the city's overall development and building regulations, many of which are some of the processes and regulations are not clearly defined in some of the current ordinances or were cumbersome or had become obsolete or needed to be analyzed and rewritten. We've given two presentations on the UDC, so I'm not going to go into a lengthy presentation, but just kind of wanted to kind of go over hit the highlights that this process was started back in 2017. Throughout the process, staff has met with City Council and Planning and Zoning Commission a number of times. We've also solicited input through multiple public meetings with citizen and stakeholder interest groups. We met with the Main Street Group, Chamber of Commerce, LEEDCO, the East Texas Builders Association, and other developer groups. We met individually with other interested parties, and throughout the process tried to take feedback that we've gained from those, as well as feedback that we've garnered through the comprehensive plan process and our small area plans that were approved by council. What we have before you really goes into a number of different areas that are in our current chapters, building and structures, which is our building and safety code, electrical, plumbing and gas codes, our fire prevention codes, flood damage prevention and tree preservation, sign ordinance, streets and sidewalks, subdivisions, the zoning ordinance, as well as our water and sewer. So the purpose of this is to really bring everything that is from A to Z that is going to be in our building and development processes under kind of a one cover. We've tried to incorporate a one-stop shop with our development services and the way we operate. And this is just the next step in the evolution of bringing our code and ordinances along the same lines, so that it's easy to let builders and developers know what our city's expectations are as far as the developer side and builder side, but also on staff side, so that it's more consistent and more in line with what our community is asking for. We've had a public hearing where our Construction Advisory and Appeals Board, dealing with recommendations on the building and fire code side, have made a recommendation for approval. And then we're here tonight for a public hearing and asking for the Planning and Zoning Commission to consider, and staff is recommending approval. This would go before City Council, as you stated, at the meeting in November. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or comments that the commission may have.
Does the commission have any questions for staff on this item? I will now open the public hearing. Are there any in support of this request? If so, please state your name and address for staff. It is your opportunity to express your support.
Again, there are people registered. I believe they are still associated with items that will come later in the meeting. Let's give them 1 second to raise their hand if they wish to speak either for or against the Unified Development Code. Again, you can raise your hand in the software if you're looking to speak for or against the Unified Development Code. Madam Chairwoman, I'm seeing none.
Thank you. There's no one that's speaking in support of or in opposition. Are there any additional comments or questions? If there are none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
This is Nancy. I move we approve the new Unified Development Code.
Thank you, Nancy. And a second, please.
Tracy Vincent will do a second.
Thank you, Tracy. We have a first and a second. We'll now conduct a roll call vote. Nancy Murray.
I approve.
Tracy Vincent.
I approve.
M. Carpenter.
Approve.
Brent Stevenson.
Approved.
Pat Noon.
Approved.
Cody Sage is absent. Ryan Baumgardner.
Approved.
Jason Jones is absent, and I approve. Staff, will you now confirm the record of the vote?
Yes, ma'am. Nancy Murray made the motion to approve. Tracy Vincent seconded the motion. The vote was 7-0 unanimous to approve the UDC.
Thank you, Angela. Now we're on to regular agenda item B. Angela, will you introduce it, please?
Yes, ma'am. This is a public hearing will be held to consider application PV 20-03 San Antonio Edition filed by Clegg Wellborn for a variance to the subdivision ordinance, section 92-102A, to allow for the minimum lot width of approximately 49 feet instead of the required 60 feet minimum, and to allow for a minimum lot size of approximately 7,187 square feet instead of the required 7,500 square feet in single-family zoning district as set forth in the zoning ordinance for approximately 0.165 acres of the proposed Lot 1, Block 1, San Antonio Edition, located at 918 San Antonio Street. And I'd be happy to go into my staff report. The applicant is requesting a variance to the subdivision ordinance. The applicant is proposing to build on the existing tract of land. The existing area is an unplatted area and consists of lots that are non-compliant with current code. There are several lots along this street that do not meet the minimum lot width or size. This area is in an older part of Longview. The applicant is attempting to comply with the subdivision regulations by meeting all other requirements of the city of Longview. Staff recommends approval of this variance. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Are there any questions of staff? Hearing none, does the applicant have anything to add or would like to speak on the request? Is the applicant present?
Yes, the applicant is present. I'm going to unmute them now. So they are self-muted right now. So they should be able to unmute themselves in the software. Again, the applicant is present and I've unmuted them. It looks like they have audio now.
Yes, I appreciate y'all's time in this matter, and it was stated very clearly our intent. There is an existing home on either side of our lot. We are planning on building a new residential home, and we're complying with all other building requirements, just looking to get the minimum square footage. And that's about it.
Did you give your name, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry. Daniel Zarati. I'm speaking on behalf of Clegg Wellborn.
Okay. Thank you. Does the commission have any questions of the applicant or of staff? Thank you, Daniel. We appreciate it. Go ahead. Sorry.
Questions of staff.
Yes, go ahead.
Once the UDC is adopted, are we going to have to keep coming back with every one of these lots?
I mean, if the lot size does not meet within the zoning district, yes. In this case, this is an older subdivision. We're not sure how old. We tried to do as much research as we could to see if it was platted or if it was divided before it was annexed into the city, but we couldn't go back far enough. I went back to the 50s, and so it was just easier and cleaner to ask for a variance to the lot size requirement and width requirement than to, it was just easier and cleaner to do it this way.
Well, the reason I asked, that's
Tim,
going
you
on.
cut off.
If you're looking at the aerial, it looks like that's going on all up and down that street.
Yes, sir. I mean, and that is what I said, in the staff report. It does look like, now some of the lots do meet the width, but there are quite a few lots that do not meet the width and depth requirements or within lot size requirements.
My question was, is there an easier way when these type people come to us to get them underway instead of putting it through two extra months of delay? I mean,
These items don't go to city council. It just goes before the Planning and Zoning Commission. Planning and Zoning Commission is the final authority on plating. And it really all depends on how each property owner develops these lots. You know, some of them own two, and if they own two, they can combine them and make them work. If they don't meet the minimum as stated in this SF4 zoning district, if they don't meet the lot size requirements, unfortunately, they do have to go back before Planning and Zoning Commission. But we don't see a lot of plat variances. You know, I think this is the third one this year that we've seen.
it's actually the fifth one. But my question is, this actually was, at one point, was not part of the city?
You know, we couldn't tell. That's why we tried to go back as far as we could to see when this area was annexed into the city and when it was divided. We couldn't tell. And so it was easier just to go through the platting or go through the plat variance process. It has been in the city for a very long time. I'm just not sure when they divided up these lots the way they did. And so therefore going through the plat variance process is the best option.
Yeah,
and their fees are waived. It's in the slip area. And so, you know, they're building a single family owner occupied home. So their fees are waived through the SLIP, the South Longview Incentive Program. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. You were breaking up.
Oh, come on, machine. I'm counting 18 lots in this area that are under the size of the lot that we're discussing. Off the blue and peach and green map. But that's the only question. I mean, we can go forward. You see what I'm saying? I mean, it's rampant in those four streets.
Yes, and I understand that. And, you know, with existing lots, they're not going to have to go through this process. But if they were to develop, unfortunately, depending on how they develop, they may have to go through this process. You know, and like I said before, we don't see a lot of plat variances. This case is PV 20-03. We've only had three for this year.
Well, if you look at the hatched version, it appears that the Ray Harris house encroaches this property line. How is that going to shake out?
Oh, but yeah, on those aerials, now those lot lines aren't 100% accurate. You know, those are based on, you know, what our GIS draws in. Now, the owner, I guess Mr. Zarata, he can talk about, they probably did get a survey of this property, and I mean, they are going through the platting process. And so I'm assuming that their survey shows that they're not encroaching onto their lot.
But if we approve, Ameritex will still have to do the setbacks, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Tim Carpenter. Are there any other questions, comments? I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak in support of this request? Please state your name.
Thank you. Yeah, there are still people, I believe, other than the applicant. Everyone here is wishing to speak on other items. We did have a question submitted by one resident who may wish to speak on this item. He submitted via text the following question. Will this application, and he didn't specify which one he was asking about, also pertain to other properties with the same minimum lot width? or will I have to submit requests to the zoning district? So I imagine, based on the items before the commission, that he is speaking about it. I'm going to unmute him at this time if he wishes to speak, and he can unmute himself. But if not, I just wanted to pass that along to the commission.
Yes, I'm unmuted.
I'm sorry.
Yes, this is Craig Bayham. I'm representing Betty Hearn. And I'm just piggybacking on what the gentleman just talked about. I do have similar lots just right around the corner there on Douglas Street with the same issue. And I was wondering if this is approved, why not it just be something that's approved and I have to go through the same process. I have a lot that's 150 by 50. And I would like to build a home on there also.
Unfortunately, I don't know what lot you own. I see there's a sliver of a lot that we did notify, but unfortunately, it's not a blanket. It is case-by-case basis. We can't blanket it, a variance request over everybody. We have to do our notification process, and we do have to follow state law when it comes to notification for variance requests because these lots do not meet lot size. I would be happy. I'd be happy to talk to you further about it if you would like to come into our office, and we can definitely look at your property or Mrs. Hearn's property and discuss this further.
Oh, that's not a problem. Is it possible to via telephone? I'm located in Houston at the moment.
Yes, you can definitely call us or call the planning department, and we'd be happy to discuss your property with you.
Okay, not a problem. I appreciate it.
Craig, what was your last name again? How do you spell it?
First name is Craig, Craig. Last name is Bayham. That's B as in boy, A as in apple, H as in happy, A as in apple, M as in Mary.
Thank you, Mr. Bayham. We appreciate your participation. All right. Is there anyone else? Go ahead.
No one else is indicating they wish to speak at this time.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? If there are none, we will close the public hearing and we'll entertain a motion.
Tim Carpenter, move for approval.
And a second?
Pat Noon will make the second.
Thank you, Mr. Noon. If we have a first and a second, we will now conduct a roll call vote. Nancy Murray?
I approve.
Thank you. Tracy Vincent?
Approve.
Thank you. Tim Carpenter?
Approve.
Thank you. Brent Stevenson?
Approved.
Thank you. Pat Noon?
Approved.
Cody Sage is absent. Ryan Baumgartner?
Approved.
Jason Jones is absent. And I approve. Frankie Parsons. Staff, will you now confirm the record of the vote?
Yes, ma'am. Tim Carpenter made the motion to approve. Pat Noon seconded the motion. The vote was 7-0, unanimous to approve.
Thank you. Now we're on regular agenda item C. Angela, would you please give us the overview?
Yes, ma'am. This is a public hearing will be held to consider application S20-00 filed by Chris and Nan Tamboni, requesting a specific use permit to allow for a restaurant with a private club and general retail zoning district for approximately 0.899 acres of abstract 113 J. Jackson Survey, tract 34, section 1, located at 1811 Judson Road, Suite A. The applicant is requesting a specific use permit. A specific use permit is required for a private club allowing for on-site consumption of alcoholic beverages within general retail zoning district to ensure no negative impact on surrounding properties. The proposed restaurant is located in general retail area and there is no adjacent residential. A SUP was granted for a restaurant on Ruth Lynn that is north of this property. Staff finds that the proposed SUP is consistent with the future land use map and surrounding uses. Staff recommends approval of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Any questions? from commissioners? Hearing none, does the applicant have anything to add or would like to speak on the request?
The applicant doesn't appear to be on the call at this time. If I'm incorrect, you can raise your hand. But I'm not seeing any hands, and the applicant does not appear to be registered in the meeting at this time.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions for staff? Hearing none, I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in support or in opposition to this request?
There are people registered. No one has raised their hand to indicate that they wish to speak to this item. Let's give it 1 second. Again, if you wish to speak, you can raise your hand in the teleconferencing software. And Madam Chairwoman, I'm seeing none.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions or comments from anyone? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing and we'll entertain a motion.
This is Tracy Vincent. I make a motion we approve.
Thank you, Tracy.
Brent Stevens.
Brent, are you making a motion for second?
Yes.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. We will now conduct a roll call vote. Nancy Murray?
I approve.
Thank you. Tracy Vincent?
Approve.
Tim Parker?
Approve.
Thank you. Brent Stevens?
Approved.
Thank you. Pat Noon?
Pardon me, Madam Chairwoman. We're getting a lot of feedback. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but if you aren't voting, if you can please make sure you're muted. We're getting a lot of feedback that's making it difficult to register the vote.
Okay. Moving forward, Cody Sage is absent. Ryan Baumgardner?
I approve.
Thank you. Jason Jones is absent, and I approve as Frankie Parsons. Staff, will you confirm the record of the vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Tracy Vincent made the motion. Brent Stevenson seconded the motion. The vote was 7-0 to approve. It was unanimous.
Thank you. We're now on to regular agenda item D. Angela, will you please review it for us?
Yes, ma'am. This is a public hearing will be held to consider application PD 20-05 filed by Andrew Trailer Custom Homes LLC to rezone approximately 8.208 acres of abstract 186 D Sanchez Survey Tract 37 Section 6 from single family 4 to plan development single family detached located on the south side of Fenton Road east of Brookway Lane. The plan development, as you can see on your screen, the plan development site plan shows a subdivision with 29 lots. All houses will be single family detached with the 20-foot front setback, 6-foot side setback, and a 10-foot rear setback. Corner lots will have a minimum 15-foot setback. All lots will be a minimum of 7,400 square feet with a minimum house size of 1,400 square feet. The maximum height will be 2.5 stories, and each lot will have a minimum of 2 parking spaces. Sidewalks will be provided by each lot owner at the time of construction. The sidewalk will be 5 foot wide and located in a public right-of-way. There will be no direct access onto Fenton Road from the residential lots. And this subdivision essentially will mimic, if you see on your screen, will mimic the 2 subdivisions to the west of this property. Staff finds the proposed zoning change is consistent with the future land use map and surrounding uses. Through the development process, the site will comply with all city codes and regulations. Staff does recommend approval of this request. I would be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Angela?
Are there? Go ahead.
Why are we, explain again, you went through it and I didn't catch it. Why are we doing PD as opposed to one?
The applicant is requesting a PD because the lot size doesn't meet, it's 7,400 and SF4 requires 7,500. And then the front setback is 20 foot in the front, or they're requesting 20 foot, and in SF4, it's 30 foot.
In the new UDC, is there not another category?
There is actually another zoning category.
That would require it not to be a PD? That would
That is-
allow it to be,
That's correct.
but we're not there yet, right?
That is correct. The UDC, if adopted by City Council, will be effective January 1st. But currently, there is another, there is another zoning category. It doesn't allow for a 20-foot setback. In the current code, it allows for a 25-foot setback. In SF, it's called SF5, but we get, a lot of people don't like SF5 because it allows for a smaller square footage. These houses are 1,400 square foot minimum, and SF5 allows for a 550 square foot minimum.
Well, the reason that I brought the question before the commissioners is that if I remember over the last 3 years, we have looked very strongly at PDs, correct? About reducing them.
That is correct. That's the point of the new zoning category SF6 in the UDC.
Angela,
Any
remind
further-
me what SF6 will be in the new UDC. A 25-foot setback, what's the size home?
Let me pull it up real quick. I believe the size home is 1,000 square foot, but let me pull it up real quick for you. So the minimum lot area is 4,000 square feet, minimum lot width 40, minimum lot depth 80, front setback would be 20 foot, side setback 4, rear setback 10, and then the minimum square footage is 1,000 square feet.
That's in the new one?
Yes, that is SF6, and it's in the new UDC.
So if he did SF6, he wouldn't have to do a PD.
That is correct. He would
Except,
still need to come and rezone it, because currently he's SF4, so he would have to rezone it to SF6, so he would have to come before you either way, but it just wouldn't be a planned development.
and that would push him back to January, right?
Yes, if he waited for the UDC to be adopted, yes, he would have to submit and come before y'all in January and City Council in February.
Are there any further questions from the commissioners?
Angela, based on where we're at, if we do a PD on this one, will the sidewalk shall be provided by each lot owner at time of construction be grandfathered? Or will they come under the new UDC, adopted, even though he has been approved prior to us moving forward?
So this is a planned development, so the restrictions within the planned development are valid because of the planned development zoning. And so, yes, the sidewalk requirement is part of this approval of the planned development.
And that is a 5-foot sidewalk on both sides.
That is correct.
Wow.
On both sides, was that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Would the developer be responsible for the sidewalk in the undevelopable area to connect them all?
So the sidewalks would be installed at the time of construction. So I'm not sure if the developer, I'm assuming the developer is going to be the ones that builds the homes and he'll put the sidewalk in when he builds each home. And so they're not going to put them in before construction. They're going to put them in during construction of the home.
But the sidewalks need to be continuous, correct?
They do, but when they're constructing a home, he could construct mid-block, and he could build it mid-block and then go from house to house. They
Go
do
back
need
to
to be
the other-
continuous. Oh, go ahead.
Go back to the Stevens drawing. Please. Are all of those lots buildable?
I'm getting a lot of static.
Yes. And the engineer, who is also the applicant, he's online, and you can ask him that question as well, but it appears that all the lots are buildable.
Well, there's a tank battery.
Pardon me, this is Richard Yakeley with the Media Development Division. It's saying that someone on a phone caller is static. If you're logged into the meeting and using the phone, please mute yourself at this time so we can figure out what that background noise is going on.
So there is a tank battery on one of the sides, but there's a note at the bottom that says those tank batteries are to be removed.
Okay, it sounds like it resolved. Thank you very much.
Okay. Tim Carpenter, are you continuing with your review of that?
My discussion is when Mr. Traylor gets through that the sidewalk goes from Fenton Road down through the cul-de-sac and back to Fenton Road. As I understand what's been requested. And if Mr. Stevens is on the line, maybe he can answer that question.
Mr. Stevens is on the line. I've just unmuted him.
Good evening. Yes, sir. As Angela had explained, the plan is for Mr. Traylor or whoever builds the houses to build the sidewalks on both sides of the road as the house construction proceeds down the subdivision. And to answer your question about the tank battery, actually most all of that equipment has either been abandoned or cut loose. The tank battery is still there. The tanks themselves, I believe, have already been removed. But the impoundment around the tank battery is still there. So.
But all of the lots are buildable in your
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, the lots on the west side of the road, they will have some dirt work. If you've driven by, there's a flat section that does fall off down to the lots that are on Brookway. But
Yes.
Generally speaking, yes, the lots are buildable with some dirt work on some of the lots.
Okay, on Kyle, on that west side of the cul-de-sac,
Yes, sir.
how's that sidewalk come around?
It'll come around inside the right of way. Which,
But at whose
Angela, I
expense?
don't know if you can. It will be on that lot owner, and
Well, there's not
and
a lot
more
owner.
than likely, I see what you're saying.
No, there's no lot owner.
We can include that on the plans, that section. We can put that in the construction plans for the subdivision. I see what you're
Follow.
saying. Angela, Angela, do you see that lot? I think it's 12.
I do.
The long, kind of oblong lot. Yeah, there's probably about 100-foot section in there. Yeah, that's a good catch.
That'll get us back to lot 15.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So we'll go
Yes, sir.
from lot right away, and I'll bring that all the way around the radius of that cul-de-sac to essentially where that curb inlet is as you enter into the cul-de-sac.
Great. Thank you.
Sir, I'll put my phone back on mute.
Are there any other questions from the commissioners? Does the applicant have anything to add?
No, ma'am.
Are there any additional questions? We will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone in support of this request that would like to speak at this time? Please state your name and address.
There are still a couple residents, but they have not raised their hand in the teleconferencing software to indicate that they wish to speak on this item. Let's give them 1 second.
All right, that would be anyone also that is in opposition to the request.
And I am seeing none at this time.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments remaining from anyone at this time? If there are no more additional comments, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Madam
Do we have
Chairman, this is Pat Noonan. I make a motion to approve as presented.
This is
Thank
Nancy.
you.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second, and we'll now conduct a roll call vote. Nancy Murray,
Approve.
Tracy Vincent,
Approved.
Tim Carpenter,
Approved with the amended sidewalk.
with the what, please?
The amended sidewalk.
Okay. Brent Stevenson,
Approved.
Pat Noon,
Approved.
Cody Sage is absent, Ryan Baumgardner,
Approved.
Jason Jones is absent, and I approve, Frankie Parsons. Staff, will you please confirm the record of the vote?
Yes, ma'am. Pat Noon made the motion to approve. Nancy Murray seconded the motion. The vote was 7-0, unanimous to approve.
Thank you. We're now on to regular agenda item E. Angela, would you please introduce it?
Yes, ma'am. This is a public hearing will be held to consider application Z20-09 filed by RSZZ LLC requesting a rezone from single family 4 to general retail zoning district for approximately 1.217 acres of abstract 262 of the A. Jordan Survey, Tract 3 and 4, Section 4, located at 2003 and 2005 Alpine Road. The applicant is requesting a rezone for these two tracts of land, like I said before, from SF4 to General Retail Zoning District. Eastman Road and Alpine Road are principal arterial roadways and are both maintained by TxDOT. Retail development is appropriate along this roadway as long as access management is followed. Staff finds that the proposed zoning change is consistent with the future land use map and surrounding uses. Staff does recommend approval of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Do the commissioners have any questions of staff? Hearing none, does the applicant have anything to add or want to speak on the request?
Our records show that Mr. Stevens is representing this request as well. He is self-muted at this time, but unmuted by us. So, Mr. Stevens, if you care to unmute, you can speak to this item. I see that your hand is raised.
Yes, sir. No, ma'am. We have nothing to add, but we'll answer any questions.
Are there any questions for the engineer? Hearing none, we will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak in support or in opposition to this request?
I'm not seeing any other hands raised at this time, giving it a second for anyone who wishes to speak for or against this item. And I'm still seeing none, Frankie.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions or comments from anyone? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Brent Stevenson, motion to approve.
Tracy Vincent.
Thank you.
Second.
I'm sorry, who was second?
Tracy Vincent.
Thank you. We have a first and second, and we will now conduct a roll call vote. Nancy Murray?
I approve.
Thank you. Tracy Vincent?
Approve.
Thank you. Tim Carpenter?
Approve.
Brent Stevenson?
Approved.
Pat Noon?
Approve.
Ryan Baumgardner?
Approve.
Ryan? Okay, thank you. And I am Frankie Parson, and I approve. Staff, will you please confirm the record of the vote?
Yes, ma'am. Brent Stevenson motion to approve. Tracy Vincent seconded the motion. The vote was 7-0, unanimous to approve the item.
Thank you. Now we're on to regular agenda item F. Angela, will you introduce it, please?
Yes, ma'am. This is a public hearing will be held to consider application Z20-10 filed by Clint C. Blackman Associates, Inc. and Chip Chris Investments, Inc. and Simmons Real Estate, LLC, requesting a rezone from general retail to heavy commercial C2 zoning district for lots 8 and 9, block 2 of Boykins Addition and approximately 0.918 acres of abstract 188 FW Sanders Survey, track 72, located at 2001 and 2108 South Eastman Road. And I will go into my staff report. The applicant is requesting a rezone from general retail to heavy commercial for these tracts of land. The property to the south of the request is zoned heavy commercial. Eastman Road is a principal arterial roadway and is maintained by TxDOT. Commercial development is appropriate along this roadway as long as access management is followed. Staff finds that the proposed zoning change is consistent with surrounding uses. Staff recommends approval of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff? Does the applicant have anything to add or would like to speak on the request?
The applicant is unmuted at this time.
This is Frank Cheney representing the two applicants, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Cheney. Any questions from anyone? Do the commissioners have questions, additional questions of staff? Hearing none, I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone that would care to speak in support of or in opposition to this request? Please state your name and address for the staff when you speak.
I'm not seeing it this time. As always, let's give it a second. There are still people registered to attend the meeting, but I'm not seeing any hands raised in the teleconferencing software for or against.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions or comments from anyone? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
This is Nancy. I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Nancy. A second, please.
And I'll make a motion to second.
Thank you, Mr. Noon. Now we'll conduct a roll call vote. Nancy Murray.
Approve.
Thank you, Tracy Vincent.
Approve.
Tim Carpenter.
Approve.
Brent Stevenson.
Approved.
At noon,
Approved.
Ryan Baumgardner,
Approved.
and I am Frankie Parson, and I approve. Staff, will you confirm the vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Nancy Murray made the motion to approve. Pat Noon seconded the motion. The vote was 7-0, unanimous to approve.
Thank you. Before we close, are there any additional comments or questions?
Madam Chairman, a question to the staff. Please.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. And your name?
This Tim Carpenter.
Thank you.
Just for point of order, why was item A on the consent agenda? I don't understand. It's been there forever.
Item A on the, the consent agenda, the Longview Mall?
Yeah.
What do you mean it's been on there forever? This is the first time that y'all seen it.
No, it's been there at its location forever.
Oh, yes. So that property has never been platted before. It is it's the Sears site. It's never been platted, and there also was a sewer line under the building, and so they relocated the sewer line, therefore needing to dedicate easements. And so the easiest way to dedicate new easements, is to go through the platting process.
Okay, that's fine. I just was curious because I got to thinking if we got to rezone that thing or after it's been
Yeah,
there.
and it's a subdivision plat. It's not they didn't request a zoning change, but it was a subdivision plat.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. In closing, please know that it is possible our next few Planning and Zoning Commission meetings will need to be conducted via teleconference like this one. We appreciate your attendance and your participation. We are adjourned.